From a black base coat, paint all of the metallic areas with Leadbelcher. This is namely the underskeleton, so areas between joints, the silver areas on the gun, and things like the skeleton as well. Don't worry about overspinning at this stage because every other colour is going to be overpainted, just making sure you get good coverage. Shade all of these metal areas except for the metal on the gun with Black Templar contrast paint. Shade the metal on the gun now with Nuln Oil. Highlight the Black Templar shaded metal areas using Iron Hand steel. So any of the sharpest edges, any of the round areas to paint the kind of uppermost surface with this colour. Note also at this stage, pick out the full length of any of the piston cylinders. Finally, make sure to pick out the sharp raised edges on any of the tubing. Highlight the brighter silver areas on the gun using Stormhost Silver. Use the edge of the brush where possible, but anywhere where there's no sharp edges like the middle of the blade, and try to paint in thin lines. Paint all of the armoured panels on the body using Runelord Brass. This will take 2, if not 3 layers to cover over black, but keep the layers thin to make sure of smooth coverage. Pick out the remaining metal areas, so the shoulder plates and the face, using Canoptek Alloy. At this stage, if you can avoid dropping paint into the recesses around the eyes and around the mouth, this will save time later, because it'll allow for those areas to already be recess shaded. Now shade both the Runelord Brass and the Canoptek Alloy areas using Cryptek Armourshade gloss paint. Go panel by panel if you can, just to keep the layers smooth to avoid any pooling. I chose at this stage to only shade the deeper recesses on the Canoptek Alloy areas as opposed to washing the whole area. This saves time in terms of correcting afterwards with the Canoptek Alloy paint. The only problem I suppose is this area will look slightly cleaner, but for me that was fine as it differentiates the two metallics on the body. As the Armourshade is a gloss paint, any areas where it pools will become shiny, so in any recessed areas where this occurs, I dropped in some Agrax Earthshade to take away with this gloss finish. It looks great on the raised metal, but obviously in recesses you don't want these areas to be shiny. Edge highlight the Runelord Brass areas using Canoptek Alloy. This is any of the sharper edges and also edges around any of the denser divots, picking out in thin lines and using the edge of the brush where possible. remember to also paint the central glyph on the chest with this colour as well. Edge highlight the Canoptek Alloy areas using Stormhost Silver, or alternatively, don't bother. To be honest, this really doesn't come out all that clearly. On maybe the sharp edges on the shoulder pads you see it a bit, but on the face it isn't really noticeable. To save time, just skip this step. As an added step to mimic the box art, you can use thinned Canoptek Alloy to glaze the upper portions of the armour panels, which allows them to transition from light to dark. What I've done here is use the thin paint to glaze and then cleaning the brush and using water to kind of smooth off the transition. This is most noticeable on the leg and the shoulder plates, and for troops may not be needed. Characters is probably worth doing. For any overspill and to give a uniform starting point, I just painted all the black areas on the gun with Abaddon Black. To start the green areas, paint the tubing, the power coil at the base of the gun and the plasma elements on the barrel with Caliban Green, making sure that it does go into the recesses on the gun barrel, but on the plasma coils just to pick out the raised edges. Also at this stage, overspill, giving a chunky highlight around these areas on the barrel, as this will be the basis for the edge highlighting later. The next step, using Warpstone Glow, so on the cabling, pick out the majority of the cable, but leaving the areas where it enters the gun the darker Caliban Green. The plasma coils to pick out kind of a central strip in the coil, make sure the edges remain the darker colour, and on the barrel pick out the centre of all the orbs and a thick edge highlight all around. Note in this example that maybe isn't the clearest shown, but I have tutorials on my channel both for this colour, for the green, and also for red and for blue plasma colours on Necron models. With Moot Green, pick out the smaller areas again, both on the power pack and on the barrel of the gun. Note at this time I didn't think to bother with Moot Green on the cabling, but when the model was finished it did look a bit too dark, so at the end of this tutorial you'll see that I actually go ahead and use Moot Green on the cabling as well. Note, using the edge of the brush where possible on the edge of the barrel will give a kind of a sharper finish with hopefully less effort. Also at this time pick out the eyes with Moot Green. Previously I've tried to this with successive different colours, green up to yellow like on the gun, but the eyes are so small a single dot of a bright green is more than enough. To finish the glow effect, paint Yriel Yellow both as dots on the centre of the power pack of the gun, on the centre of the orbs, and dot at any of the corners on the edges of the barrel. So you'll see here where you dot it just where kind of there's any kind of sharp points, when this allows to give the effect of a brighter glow from these elements. Pick out the sharp edges of the black areas of the gun with edge highlighting first with Eshin Grey. Again, this can be quite a chunky highlight, and to use the side of the brush where possible. To be honest, the black element in the gun is the least standout, so you don't really need to spend a huge amount of time on it. It's the metallic effects and the glow that really sell the model. Now pick out the sharpest corners using Administratum Grey, so namely the absolute corners on any squared elements. As mentioned previously, I've gone back now with Moot Green and just picked out a smaller area along the centre of any of the cabling. This maybe isn't necessary, but I found the end result without this was a bit too dark for my liking. Also, I did this in kind of a single pass. You could spend your time glazing it to transition more smoothly between the colours, but again, for troops it should be fine. And this is the finished result. If you like this video, please check out the channel and consider subscribing, as I have numerous other painting tutorials.